Yeah, so I'd like to be joined with, I think you were my very, very first Blimey It's Only guest. Paul, how are you, mate?
I'm good, and yeah, I was. I remember that. That was fun. Nothing came of the reason I was on on for that
No,
talk, but
no disrespect, but
um,
it did lead to bigger and better, didn't it, that one, eh?
I suppose so. Yeah, I can't argue with what I'm writing about now. So
There again, you're now a legitimate Zap writer. What the hell?
should have worn me Zap T-shirt, shouldn't I? Really, or
You
Zap
should have.
cap or something. But yeah, bit of a dream come true, really. That I mean, I think we all wanted to do that, didn't we, back in the '80s? So to actually do it's great.
I didn't actually. No, I had no interest
No,
in writing. I'd quite like to have got all the free games, I suppose. But have you always had a kind of hankering for writing, or is it just really computer games?
no,
You
I
just
did. I applied for a Zap job back in 1988.
yeah.
I forget who. I think it was 88, 88, 89, something like that. Got the standard rejection letter because they're not going to hire somebody with just out of school with no experience from Newcastle to go down to Ludlow, are they? I thought I did quite a good job with writing back then. I just sort of put it on the back burner then. I was like, yeah. But it was the way of the rodent thing that started me back up with writing, which
Yeah,
obviously you used to do yourself as well.
that's right. I think that was probably the first kind of bit of like sort of writing that most of us did.
Yeah.
I do miss that. It's one of these things. I mean, I was talking about it a couple of weeks ago's waffle about. I think I've got a book in me. I think everybody's got a book in them. It's
I've got
just,
loads that are just half finished.
yeah, as we know. We'll not talk about that until later on. But yeah, I've always had a hankering. I think there's two books in me. One about growing up because I was one of the earliest residents in Man U Town. I mean, Man U Town, like I own the place. There's probably about 100,000 people in it, but we were one of the first families to move
Right.
to the new town. Yeah, I don't know. There's never really been a book written about growing up in a new town. I think it's something I would love to do, and it's the same with video games. I mean, I've done I don't know how many waffles. 10 years, 10 times 52 is 520. I've done probably about 700 hours of talking about video games. So I think there's enough content. I was actually thinking if there was some way of getting YouTube to change my voice into like text, I could just copy and paste it and go, boom, there we go. There's a 1,000-page book.
There probably is, but you'd have to have a good editor to make sure you got it all edited down in that because you obviously, I mean, with the best will in the world, I'm not saying you're born or anything, but there's no way you'd want to put every single word from every single video into a book. So
I was only jesting, but it's like anything. Is there any? I'm not going to say bucket list. Is there anything that you want to do before you die, apart from getting your book finished?
Yeah, that is basically it, isn't it? I mean, I've got two on the go that are more feasible than the one I first started with at the minute. The one I started doing recently is a 8-bit computer game football book. Because I did something, Fusion magazine that Chris Wilkins does.
Yeah.
So I forget when it was now. I think it was before the summer, and I did Fusion 8. Was it Fusion World Cup? I did, but it had games from different formats and stuff, and they weren't just 8-bit. There was other ones as well. But I think I got 6 pages, and you can't write about many games. You can't do a very, very good World Cup really in 6 pages. So I got to thinking I could probably expand this a bit. But I thought it'd be more fun to do because, as you know from your Sunday streams, so many football games were absolutely terrible back then. Really, really bad. And writing about bad games is fun. And it's fun to read. So I thought, I'm going to do a book where I write about every single 8-bit computer football game there was. And put it into a book and then do a World Cup at the end to decide which is the best one. So I've played some absolutely awful stuff.
I was going to say without any spoilers, what would you say is the worst football game you've ever played in any video game system?
It's so hard because there's so many. I'm trying to think of the ones I've given the worst rating to, or the ones I've played so far. I mean, I've played about 40 and written about 40 so far, but there's another 150 or something to do at least. The Amstrad had some terrible ones. There was one called Am Soccer, which was really bad. There's a Glen Hoddle Soccer that was released on it, which it's impossible. It's just the hardest game you'll ever play in your life. It's like you play for your local club against Barcelona. As soon as you can't get the ball off them, they just robot. You remember? Did you ever play? Oh, did you ever play? Of course you did. Remember 180 on the Commodore 64?
Yeah, that was a good game. That was actually very, very good.
It was good, but if you got to the final, you had to get a 9-yard finish to win. Otherwise, you lost.
Is that right?
Yeah, you had to. Every single time, you had to get a 9-yard finish. That's what it's like the football equivalent of that. You just can't do anything against the opponent's team. It's ridiculous. But there's some that are just really bad, just because they're awful as well. You know, I mean, this one it at least moved okay. I mean, I got you to play Kenny Dalglish Soccer or something the other day.
Which is pretty bad.
That's awful. And there's loads. I mean, obviously, you'll just have to read the book and find out, won't you? Whenever it gets 2037 or something.
I mean, I think certainly when the 16-bit computers came along, suddenly they realised that they could have like football games that actually almost resembled the proper game. I think the first one I bought, because it got quite a good review, and it was shit. They were all side on, like kind of international soccer. Was it Manchester United by Chrysalis Software, and then they brought out another version. Then you had Peter Beardsley's soccer, you had Gaza's soccer, and then there was a handball Maradona game. What was that about? Was that?
It was like, I think it's a penalty shootout game.
Was that all it was? That's it was.
Because it was obviously Peter Shilton's handball Maradona, so it was a Peter Shilton license, if you like. I'm going to play that one. I'm only playing ones that are actual football matches rather than. But I'm going to have a little section with ones that didn't make it, like Football of the Year, stuff like that. So there were football games, but they weren't football matches, if you know what I mean.
There's a lot of kind of offshoots of that as well, wasn't there? Mm-hmm. What would you say is the best? Again, it's probably, you don't have to tell me you don't want to, but a bit of a spoiler. What would you say is the best 8-bit computer football game?
It is a bit of a spoiler, but I mean, you've got to look at the obvious ones. Things like Emlyn Hughes Soccer's are obviously going to be up there. I didn't really like the match day games very much. They get a lot of praise, but they're too slow. Micropro Soccer's good as well.
It's not really football, though, is it?
I mean, it depends how it's fun. It's a fun game, but
because I think anytime I used to play, I don't think you ever actually passed. I think you just got the ball, weaved up the pitch, and then did this massive banana shot.
Except you'll find that you can do that in about 80% of them. Probably you hardly ever have to pass. It's pointless. But there's some games that are worth playing at least. So I'll tell you what was a good one that surprised me, and I never played it in the day. Can you ever remember seeing one with the Commodore 64 called I Play 3D Soccer?
I remember it, but I never played it because I think
I didn't either.
At that point. Yeah.
It's surprisingly good. You pick one player, you pick your position, so you can pick from number 2. You can't be the goalkeeper, but you can pick from 2 to 11 on the pitch, and you play that position the whole time. So the match will move on without you getting the ball, and you've just got to sort of try and find your position on the pitch where you want. I mean, you're going to play as a striker, aren't you? But with the 3D view, if you ever get a chance to play it sometime, I mean, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, especially when you have a shot, because you have a shot, you hold the button down, and then a square comes up, and you can move the square across the goal on the screen. When you let go, that's where the ball goes. So it's quite difficult to get used to, but it's really quite good actually.
And it's like 3D
anyway.
Is that a kind of 3D viewpoint?
Yeah, it's sort of behind the player view.
And that's on the 64, you said, yeah?
Yeah. And it moves okay, you know. I mean, it's easy to get confused because, I mean, you're only on a certain part of the pitch, but there's a radar screen, so you can at least look at that and see whereabouts every other players are on it. It works quite well. It's much better than I thought it was going to be.
The only game similar to that I remember getting on the PlayStation, it was by Namco. I think it was called something Libra or something. It was called.
I know the one you mean.
And it was you played as one player.
Yeah.
But It was, well, I found it utterly unplayable. I didn't know where I was or where the ball was or anything.
It's something libero, isn't it?
Something Libra, I don't know why it was.
I think libero is that Italian for sweeper or something, or
I don't know what it was, but
I mean, it'd be the same if you play this. I play 3D soccer. You'll get confused and what have you.
yeah.
You'll not know where. You'll just might see the ball flash across the screen sometimes. But if you get the hang of it, it's quite all right actually. It's much more.
I'll take that. What's it? I play. What's it called?
I play 3D soccer.
3D soccer.
There's one for Sunday.
Oh, there we go. I'll give that a go. That'll be a 10-minute mashup. Excellent. Brilliant. So anyway, Archer and Roger, yeah, it's been a bit of shit end to 2022.
Yeah, crap end of the year, crap start of the new year.
Though, from what I mean, obviously you know Chris Wilkins better than I do, but from what I gather, Roger was ready for going.
Yeah, I mean, took him quite quickly to be honest, which is, I don't know if that's good or bad. He had that MND, which is obviously horrible. And even just up to a year ago, if not sooner, he was still talking in, sort of got a Slack group for Zap64, and he was talking in there and contributing stuff. But then obviously it got a bit difficult to do. But it was really quite a fast downhill. And then when Ollie Frey died, I don't think that helped. So yeah, it's obviously a sad day for all of us who liked computer magazines in the 80s. Really,
did you ever meet Ollie or Roger in real life?
I never did. No. You know what it's like for the likes of us. It's hard to get anywhere where things like that are held. It's always somewhere way out the way. And I, as you know, I can't drive or don't drive, so getting there takes like 8 hours on a train just to get somewhere, and then everybody's nicked off by the time you get there. It's just it's difficult. So nice as it would have been, never got the chance, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of was Roger? Roger was he the first editor of Zap?
Yeah. No, well, I'm trying to think. I don't think
it was. I was actually, what was I watching, or was I reading? I can't remember. Chris Anderson. No, it was, in fact, it was my Sunday stream. I was looking at Zap.
Yeah, Zap one, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Chris Anderson, he was the guy that pulled all together.
I think he was I'm not sure if he was the editor at first. I think Chris Anderson was the editor originally, but he only lasted about 3 issues, didn't he? And then they moved to Ludlow, and he went, and I think Roger Keane took over the editing from then. Which
was that not when? Anyway. Was that not when? There was obviously Gary Liddon, not Gary Liddon. There was Gary Penn, Julian, and then what was the What was it? What was the guy? Was it Paul Sumner? No, Paul Sumner was the made-up guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the made-up one.
What was the third guy that was in the first couple of issues?
That was Chris Anderson, yeah.
No, Bob Wade.
Bob Wade, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think he decided not to go to Ludlow, and that's when I think Gary Liddon managed to get the gig.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Gary Liddon was a couple of issues later. I think they kind of winged it, just the two of them. I think it was just Gary Penn and Julian Rignall for a couple of issues there.
Yeah.
Although I think from what I remember, I mean, I just think the things I've read over the time, I think Gary Liddon might have sort of contributed a little bit before he was actually officially on the magazine. And then that was sort of the classic trio, wasn't it?
I mean, he kind of winged it, getting the job. He didn't know the first thing about anything.
Didn't matter, because it was entertaining what he wrote. Some of his reviews are some of the best ones that they had. I can still remember some of them. Some classic stuff.
So when I was watching, sometimes like any hobby, you know, depending on what's going on in your life, whether it's your work or just personal stuff going on, sometimes I wouldn't say I suppose it does. My interest in the whole hobby can wane from time to time, and the best way for me to pick that up is to watch like Bedrooms to Billions.
Yeah, that's a good one to watch.
Just watching. I mean, it's a good film. There's a lot of interesting information, but just seeing the whole 80s stuff again, all the footage of being in boots and all that. You go, oh, I would absolutely kill to go back for a weekend to be like 15 years old in a computer shop. That would be brilliant.
It was great. I mean, I was reading something in somebody was saying their boots only had what did they have it say it had in it? It didn't sound anything like our boots though, because our boots had loads of computers set up all the time. Oh, you're frozen. Oh no, you're back. Ours had computers set up all the time for you to do stuff with and mess around with and leave the classic 20 go to 10 messages on and what have you. But yeah, it was great. Everywhere you went, there was shops that had stuff. Even just going to newsagents and looking on the Mastertronic racks was great. There's nothing really like it now, is there?
It's really, I mean, I've spoken about it at great length over the years. It's, I mean, nostalgia is one thing, and you know the old rose-colored spectacles, but it wasn't so much what was there. It was just it was an exciting, vibrant time to be a teenager. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was lots of my pals had no interest at all in computer games. I was like the geek that stayed in my. I mean, I think I recounted one time. I think I was 17 years old. It was Hogmanay in Scotland, all over the world, funnily enough. And my mates are saying, "Oh, we'll come and get you about 12:30." And I went, "No, I'm staying in." "Oh, how are you staying?" I says, "I've got Gauntlet to play in the Commodore 64," and I fucking sat in from Hogmanay right over playing Gauntlet.
See, that sounds like a better night to me as well, to be honest. I mean, New Year's Eves are terrible. They're always hyped up, and then you think something great's going to happen, and it never does, and you just end up bored and fed up. Playing Gauntlet would have been a damn sight better as far as I was concerned.
But yeah, if you could just bottle that whole experience. I mean, in Bedrooms to Billions, Julian Rignall was said that the first time he set eyes on a video game, it was Space Invaders, and he said as he got closer, he saw this, like, these images on the screen, and he saw a guy moving, pressing buttons, and he thought, is he controlling what's on the screen? And he thought that he was controlling the entire thing. Yeah. And then when he got closer, he realised that he was moving this little square along the bottom, and it's impossible to try and get over to people who are probably, I don't know, less than probably 40 years old or younger. They'll not understand that. They'll not understand why that was such an amazing thing, because before then, TV was just passive. You just looked at it, and that was it. You couldn't interact in it. The most you could interact with TV was, you could press the volume button. In fact, that's probably later on. You get the wee volume.
I was going to say, you have the dial. You have to walk up to the TV itself and turn the dial.
Yeah, but you got that when later on when you press the up button on the volume, you got the wee green buttons appearing on the screen, and that was like,
that's right.
That's like the future. And then you got teletext, which you could sort of like interact with to a degree.
Honestly, I love teletext so much. It was on a Saturday afternoon. I'd be upstairs in my bedroom with my portable telly, and I'd have a cup of coffee, and I'd have a few biscuits, and I'd just be watching the football on teletext. It was to be like 30 seconds a page or something, where you'd see the scores, and then you'd be waiting for the next one to flick to see if somebody had scored a goal.
And then you miss it, and then it goes back. I suppose it's a bit like playing Football Manager, is it not? You just get the update, and that's it.
It wasn't even as interactive as that, or should I say as immediate as that. It took longer for the pages to change. But it was great. But I know what you mean. I feel bad for my youngest anyway. My eldest isn't really bothered. But my youngest likes all sort of the old games scene a little bit. I took him to Nerg last year.
Yeah, that's right.
And he loved that. He can't wait for it to come back round.
That's good.
In fact, he's considering himself in training right now, because I don't know if you've been looking on your Discord at all, but I actually bought one of those arcade one-up centipede cabinets.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, Christmas. You can tell us about it shortly.
And unbelievably, I got it built. But it's got Tempest on there with a spinner. And Ryan thinks it's great. He loves going on sitting on there playing Tempest. And he says he's in training for Nerg. I think he thinks he's going to get the top score when he goes there, but I've told him he's going to be sorely disappointed, because there's people who go there who've been playing it for 40 years, so he's got no chance.
Yeah. So is this the one? What's it called? One Up Arcade or something? Yeah.
Yeah, Arcade One Up. They do loads. They've got quite a lot of cabinets out. And I was waiting for them to do the Centipede one over here, because my missus was a big Centipede fan in the 80s. So I thought, sort of wanted to get it as a present for her. And not only did it come out, sort of, I think it was October, November time over here, but Game had £200 off just before Christmas. I was like, got to do it for
£200
that.
off. Well, that's all right.
It was tremendous. So I bought it on a whim, thinking it would be dead easy to put together, forgetting that I'm absolutely the world's worst at anything like that. And it was going all right until I just had it lying down flat, and I was supposed to put the second side on, the side panel. Couldn't get it on for anything, and I just get discouraged with things like that. So I just sat there for over a week, half finished on the floor. And then it was last Friday, I think it was, or maybe the Friday before. But anyway, I thought I'll have another go. Got a bit of help from online, and it was wee Bob off the forum, because he's got some of these cabinets, and then I realised I had a bit of a dowel rod in a hole that wasn't supposed to be in, so that wasn't helping. And it took about half an hour to get it all sorted from where it was, up and running, working, and it's good.
So what is it? Obviously, completely flat pack.
Yeah.
And what do you get? You get the monitor and that with it as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's all in there. It's more of a screen than a monitor, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it works fine. It's about 3/4 size, I think. And it came with a riser as well, if I want. So that lifts it up so it's closer to full height.
You're quite a tall bloke. So, I mean,
I am quite tall.
Is it suitable for somebody like yourself then to play?
Well, we're using the stool whilst we're sitting and playing, so it works out nicely like that.
Right,
It's just a good height.
Yeah.
So with it being centipede, you don't get a joystick with it. There's no joystick games. But it's got a trackball and it's got a spinner. So it's got Tempest. It's got obviously Centipede and Millipede. It's got Missile Command and Crystal Castles, so they're good to play with the trackball. Nice. Well, I say that, I don't like Crystal Castles very much, but you know, it's another one to try.
Missile Command, that's great. That's a great game.
It is, except I'm absolutely rubbish at it. I've no idea how Tony Temple can even score 50,000, let alone what he does. I don't think I've ever scored 10,000 on that game. It's just so hard.
Yeah, I think I've got 20,000 things about my max. But actually, it's got a spinner as well. I mean, even spinners. I mean, spinners themselves are cost an absolute fortune. Is there any way? Is there any way to hack it? Do you know there must be? Yeah.
Don't think there is. I mean, I imagine people probably much more capable than me have done something with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. It's you can connect it online and get online leaderboards if you want. We haven't done it because I think we're quite happy to just have sort of local leaderboards for ourselves. I'm not sure how it works because obviously if you connect to the live thing and then you've got someone's high score on the games you like, it's like a million times better than you can get. It sort of puts you off a bit. You're not going to play if you've got no chance of beating them. So we've just kept it local for now. But I don't know. I don't know if you could or not. I mean, like I say, somebody who knows more than me probably could.
I suppose the thing to do is keep it for a year or two and see. And when you get, if you eventually get bored, you think, right, we're not playing, we've only got 5 games here. Then you could hack it, and I'm sure there's people got maiming them. You know what I mean? Playing.
There will be.
I suppose you would want to be able to have a joystick that enough, but even just being able to play. I mean, what other trackball games could you put on it that aren't on it?
I'm trying to think what's on there. Major Havoc's on there. Have you ever played that?
Oh, that's
that weird thing.
Is that a better style game?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. It's shooting and you run and jump, isn't it? Quite a bizarre game.
What else? I'm trying to think of there's 14 games on altogether. They've got Asteroids and Asteroids Deluxe are on, which obviously don't use the spinner or the trackball, but still nice to have them. But they don't use a joystick either, so you're all right.
And what would you say? I mean, how would you say obviously it's emulated? How would you say it plays?
Seems fine to me. I'm not enough of a connoisseur to know the difference, but it's
and like, what's the sound quality like? Obviously, Asteroids is very bassy. It's got the
It's pretty good. It's got a volume control on it, so you can just knock it up or down how you like, and it's decent enough. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but I don't hear any glaring errors. It might.
Yeah.
I mean, someone like Panther who knows sort of waveforms and things might be able to tell differences like that, but nothing sounds wrong. Like, for instance, remember those plug and play TV things we used to get, and they had like Pac-Man and stuff on, and the sounds were all wrong, and it just ruined the whole experience. It's not like that. It still feels like you're playing the arcade games. So It's good
Hey,
stuff.
how big is the screen? Do you know?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm trying to describe it. I mean, it's like an arcade monitor, but it's horizontal.
Yeah.
So, but the vertically oriented games aren't stretched across, which I feared they were going to be. Because I'd read some initial reviews from the American versions, which came out a couple of years ago, and they said Centipede was stretched, which ruins it a bit, really.
Right.
But it's not. They've fixed that for this. It's not like that, so it feels
Mm.
authentic. It feels pretty good.
And is that just so? That's just called the one. Was it what arcade one up Centipede? But you get all these other games with it.
Yeah, this one they've called it the Centipede Legacy Edition. And I mean, I've seen other ones like the Street Fighter ones, which has like 3 or 4 versions of Street Fighter on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's 14 games on, so you know it's pretty decent for what you get.
What would be nice is if it had Arkanoid.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
That would be nice.
Especially when you got
Playing
proper.
Hey, talking about spinners. When I was at the computer club last month, one of the guys he had, excuse me, he connected up his Atari paddle to his Commodore 64, and I was playing Arkanoid using the paddle. And to put it into context, when I bought Arkanoid in the C64, trying to play it with a joystick is next to impossible. And I think I played it probably half a dozen times and I never went back to it.
Yeah.
I'd never got off screen 1. I played it with a paddle and I think I got to something like level 10 or 11. But here's the thing. I did not get a single laser. Right through all these levels, I never got a single laser. So there's obviously something's afoot with the Commodore.
It's a rip-off, isn't it, with that? I must admit, I try to think how I could probably get 4 or 5, maybe 6 screens in on the Commodore 64 one. They did have it in the pub. Oh yeah, I'm quite good at games. Remember, apart from that bloody Galaxy.
Apart from Galaxy, you're a bit shit at that. You know.
Other than that, I'm quite good. They did have Arkanoid in our local pub once, and it was definitely much better with a spinner. But this Centipede cabinet's got Super Breakout on it. So you know, I can go really old school. Yeah. It's weird playing a breakout game where you don't get pickups.
Aye, that's not all good game. So not all old games are good. I mean, just before I came online with you, I was playing my SNES, and I thought I fancy a game of Super Mario Kart, and I started playing, and I thought, oh, Christ, the screen's a bit squished because you've got the map bit at the bottom, and you've got and I thought, how the hell do you get on a like full screen? And I googled it, and it's like you can't put it in full screen. It's always you can only play half of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd forgotten that, and I'm going to upset a lot of people, but I have to say it's not aged particularly well. The handling's still nice, but the fact that you're playing it on a little squish screen.
I was never. I mean, I've never been into the Nintendo first party games very much.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just not really bothered about. And obviously the Mario Karts have got a lot better over time, but they're still irritating in some ways. Like all the Mario sports games just do my head in. And people that I could annoy people even more. I remember I wrote a review of Mario Superstars Baseball for Way of the Road, and I just absolutely slaughtered it. And you get all these people who are just. I don't understand why people are fanboys or anything. I just find it weird. And they're saying stuff like, for the baseball thing, what was it? Something like a banana power-up throwing ape, sign me up. And it's like, no, because it ruins the game.
Aye.
It spoils it. It's not fun to play when you've got stupid things, invincible things like that. Or just to go on another rant, I remember writing it in my review, there's one thing where I hit what was going to be a home run, and I hit this stupid plant in midair, bounced down to somebody who caught it, so I was out. Then all my other players had started running to the bases, and you couldn't stop them and make them go back. But everybody was out for something where I'd done a perfectly good shot, but this stupid bloody plant in midair ruined it. Where's the fun in that?
It's something that couldn't happen in real life. Yeah, and that's always my kind of bone of contention with Nintendo games. I mean, one of the it's a great fun game of football, and it's Mario Strikers or something. It's called. It's on the game. It came out in the GameCube. I think it came out in the Wii, and you can probably get it on the Switch as well. And it's a fantastic game. It's just so playable, really, really playable. But again, you've got these stupid like thunder shots and that, and like they're unstoppable. It's pointless, and
that ruins it for me.
I don't know if you can turn these things off.
I don't think you can. I've seen an advert for that one on the Switch on the telly. And I thought, oh yeah, let's have a look at this. And sure enough, there's Donkey Kong blasts some unstoppable shot in, and it's like, no, I don't want to play that. And I get that there's millions who clearly do and think that that's tremendous, but it just spoils it for me. If you've got,
I mean, I think it kind of it's almost like pandering to the sort of casual gamer that they don't want to get good at games. They want to instantly. They want to pick up a game and instantly be able to play it. Whereas we're old school. We want to learn. We want to learn to get good at a game. And so having some kind of unstoppable shot, and it's the same with like, what do you call it? It's even like, again, if I play an arcade game, it doesn't matter what game I play. I mean, arcade games were made to take money. They were made to keep putting coins into. I will never, ever do a continue. Doesn't matter.
I'm exactly the same. I'm exactly the same. I don't do it. That's not what the game's designed for.
Well, I think it actually was designed for that. But playing it in context in an arcade game where you're having to put 20 pence in, fucking right, I'm gonna have to have one more go. The problem is, and it's never been typified better than Gauntlet. Gauntlet was a great game, but playing it in MAME is utterly pointless.
Well, yeah, that's the one exception where I would continue, because obviously your coins are your energy, aren't they? They're your life force. So if you want to get anywhere, you've got to put more money into it. So I suppose that's slightly different. But when it's something like Rolling Thunder, for instance, you get as far as you can, you die, you try again. You don't stick another 10 pence in from like near the end and then I've beaten it. You haven't, because you were only a few screens from the end. You haven't beaten it. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't do continues. I don't do it on computer games either. I don't continue.
No. And it's sometimes if I'm playing like a shoot 'em up, like I was playing Raiden the other day. I think there's a Raiden 2, and I think there's 3 or 4 Raidens.
There's 5 now.
I've got it in my head that I've got to play the first one, and then if I complete that, then I'll play the second one. I'm never monthly Sunday's going to complete it. I mean, it's bastard hard. But that's just the way I'm wired up, and it's obviously it's an age thing, I think.
I bought Ryan, my 13-year-old. I bought them Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Switch for Christmas. But he hasn't opened it yet. He won't play it until he's completed all the other Donkey Kong Country games first. But he is continuing, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. He's not doing it from the start. He is continuing, he's using saves, should I say? But fair play, if he wants to do it like that, that's pretty good. Rather than just
do you ever?
It doesn't take after me, because if you know me, I like new and shiny things. I don't stick with games until I finish them. It's like I'll play it and get the feel for what it's like, and then something new comes along, like, I'll play that one now. So he doesn't take after me in that respect, definitely.
Do you use like save states at all in any like if you're playing?
Absolutely not.
Nah. What about when you're doing like reviews for Zap? Do you ever like use save states?
No, I don't. But sometimes we get given sort of I wouldn't say hacked versions, but versions with stuff maybe unlocked or like codes for extra lives or things. So I can do stuff like that just so I can see further in the game. Yeah. I like to try and get as far as possible myself without doing that. I've always done that.
Yeah, I mean, I love what was that hacking group? We shouldn't call them hackers. That's kind of wrong. The group that did the Ghosts and Goblins and Commando arcades.
Oh, Nostalgia.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that they kind of built in the sort of the cheats and all that kind of stuff. That was brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, what they did with those Commando and Ghosts and Goblins, wasn't there? And yeah, they did really good jobs with them. They were excellent. I think especially Commando.
Yeah. Is there any? I mean, have you got any inside information? Do you think they'll ever do another game?
I think they'll probably do another game. I wouldn't have a clue what it would be yet, though. But if they can, I mean, there's got to be other arcade games that were converted that they could do a really good job on. I mean, can you think of any you'd like to be sort of overhauled? Or do you think there's no point with MAME letting you play?
I don't
the
know. I
originals?
mean, I would like. I'm trying to think. See, I was never a Bomb Jack fan, so I never actually thought that the C64 Bomb Jack was that bad. Apart from the
I never
fact
liked Bomb Jack. Someone is doing another Bomb Jack, but I don't know. Seems to be on pause for a long time.
yeah. Apart from like they were too lazy. When you think with the bomb, it was like a big square around it. It was ugly as sun. I'm trying to think, what game would I like to see overhauled? Bloody hell. I mean, I think Arlasoft, Mr. Sherman, he's done a cracking job.
He has, isn't he?
I mean, he's fucking done the perfect bloody berserk. Yeah, at some point, I've still to get my review of that one. He's done that. He's done Galaga. He's done Galaxian.
Yeah, he's done it. He's done loads. I'm sure he's got more on the way. But I suppose when you think about it, they're all sort of single screen shooter type things. I'm thinking, I mean, if you think of something like Rolling Thunder on the Commodore 64.
Well, that's the one I was thinking of. I'd like to see. I think that could be done pretty well.
It could be done better than it was.
Yeah.
I bought that when it came out because I love the arcade machine. I love it as much as you do. And I bought it when it came out and got it home, and I was like, what the hell is this?
Because even the music, I think all I've got is the drums. Or they've got I don't think they've got any like lead.
It's just when you start it up and your character looks like he's made out of Lego, it instantly ruins it. And then it's just so slow. And you stand there and you fire piddly little bullets, and it's just.
And then even like the Amiga and the ST were just as bad.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't the worst conversions ever. Even the Commodore 64 one wasn't the worst one ever, but it's not good either. It could be certainly improved a lot. Just trying to think more.
Yeah. What was I going to say there? Talking to kind of like updates. There's a guy. He's appeared on my channel before. In fact, I think he watches my channel. Richard Broadhurst. He does insanely good verses for the BBC.
All right.
I mean, the games that he's done for the BBC are arcade perfect as far as I'm concerned. And I notice he's just brought out a Missile Command, so I'll need to have a look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wondered how people can do a good version of that because you at least need 3 buttons, don't you? You've got to have one button for every base to fire from. But I mean, obviously, you do have the keyboard, I suppose. So it's just about how well it controls, and it's a hard thing to get right, that with a joystick. I'll tell you,
a version of that I was playing a couple of weeks ago was Atari 2600, and you just use the joystick, and they've absolutely nailed it. They've nailed the movement, because the problem with the joystick, you're like that, and it's going and it's over. But this thing works really well, and you've just got the one fire button, obviously. And it's really,
but I seem to remember playing. I seem to remember really liking that back in the day, because I did have it. It was one of those games where everybody knew the name, so I'm pretty sure I had that. If not, somebody I knew had it, and I played it a lot, and actually liked it more than I like the arcade one for some reason. It's probably easier. That'll be why.
Well, I think I got to about level 10 in it, so it's definitely
definitely easier.
It's definitely easier, aye. So, what? Need to watch what you're saying, because obviously you write for Zap. And in fact, I noticed I glanced through. I got the Amiga one. I was looking at it a couple of weeks ago, and you write for the Zap Amiga as well.
I do. I don't do as much on there, but I do chip in with the odd review now and again. Yeah.
So is there still as much of a kind of like a homebrew scene in the Amiga?
It's not as big, but it's definitely there. We've got a list of games that are upcoming to review, and there's a lot in the pipeline still. People seem to be doing a lot of good arcade conversions on there at the minute. But there's I think we've got about 15 games or so waiting to be released, so we can review them.
Yeah, because I was thinking. I mean, have you actually got? Is there enough material to keep putting out Amiga zaps. Obviously, the 64, there's tons and tons of games
Yeah.
getting written.
I think it's more of a features magazine than a reviews magazine. There's that Amiga. I mean, there's obviously there's always maybe 4 reviews in there every issue, which is still pretty good.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of sort of stuff around. There's demo scene stuff and interviews with sort of programmers and stuff. There was an interview in, I forget his name. I'm terrible with names. The guy who did the Devil's Temple game.
Oh, Graham Cowie.
Yeah, that's him. There was an interview with him in a couple of issues ago, I think. So it's good from that point of view, yeah. And you can have, because there's not as many reviews, you can sort of expand those and put a bit more detail into them. So I think from that side of things, it's still a good read, just in a different way to Zap 64.
Aye. So, I mean, I've got a pile of like that with my minis, and I'll be honest, I've not looked at any of them yet. I buy all these books. I mean, I've still got. I think I've started Chris Wilkins's Ocean Story about 10 times, and I get so far into it, and then something comes along, and then I go, fuck, I need to start it. I keep reading it over and over again. I mean, the rest of the books that I've got so many books. I mean, I just bought the bloody Games Master.
Oh yeah, I've got that one
book.
I've started it, but
I had a quick glance at it, and I think that's quite heavy reading. It's not really. It's more.
Yeah, it's big sort of wall of text thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But this though, I get all those. I get all the Zaps, and I get Crash and Fusion magazine, and that. I don't get the Amtix one, but I get everything else. But I proofread all the things, so by the time they arrive in through my letterbox, I don't want to read them at all. I've read them 2 or 3 times and got all the errors out of them. So I must have about 100 magazines here that I've only opened them to just get the new magazine smell out of them and then put them back.
Do you subscribe to Retro Gamer at all?
No, I never did. I used to just go and read it in W.H. Smith, to be honest, when it came out. I'm trying to think when it did come out now. It was late 90s. It was the 90s, wasn't it, when it first started? Am I right?
No. It came out. I'll tell you when it came out. Probably about 2005.
It might have been a little bit earlier than that.
Early 2000s.
I definitely remember, because I was living in America between 2000 and 2005, and they had it in Barnes and Noble, which is a big sort of book and magazine store over there. And I used to see it in there. I used to pick it up and read it, strangely enough. So I remember it from that. For some reason, I thought it might have started a bit earlier, but
I've got them all here. Let me have a quick look.
I definitely never subscribed, though. I don't subscribe to a lot, to be honest.
I mean, the first probably 50 or so issues were great. It was, just purely nostalgia stuff. But then they started getting into the Mega Drive and the SNES and the PlayStation 1. And when it gets to, I mean, I don't know where your interest kind of ends, but for me, I don't have. I mean, I was talking to, I can't remember, it might have been Panther or Del Boy I was talking to. I'm conscious that, I don't want to, I'm not a one-trick pony, but when you're kind of restricted, that you can't have nostalgia for something that you never own. So I don't have nostalgia for the Spectrum. So if I want to do, I mean, at the moment I'm doing 11 horizontal shoot 'em ups in the C64 you must play. I couldn't do that in the Spectrum because I don't know them. I goes, well, I think R-Type came out in it, but that's it. Whereas I've got, I can think, I remember Slayer, that was a good game. I remember that, that's a good game. So I don't have any nostalgia for any other system other than the C64. And going by, when I put out a video for anything that's not 8-bit, the views are always shit. Which is irrelevant. So I think, I need to cater to my audience. But you know what? I need to start. Because, I mean, I'm sitting playing, the Mega Drive and SNES are great, but I don't have any real nostalgia for them.
Right.
I don't have any nostalgia at all for the PC, which is bizarre because for about, I don't know, when did I get rid of my Amiga? I probably sold that, I don't know, 94 maybe. Yeah. And then the PC was my only gaming system for about 5 years. But
yeah,
there's nothing on the PC. I think, Doom was a great game, and it was a great game, but I don't have any nostalgia for the PC. It's a bizarre thing.
I got a PC. I got my first one in 1997, and I did get some games on it. I got Final Fantasy VII, for instance, on the PC. I didn't really play it very much, and there's a lot of games I didn't play. I've got some nostalgia for sort of early 2000s ones. I got Sid Meier's Sim Golf, and I absolutely love that.
Well, I remember you loved that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Trying to actually play it on anything's an absolute nightmare. I have got it up and running on my older laptop, so I'm keeping that around just so I can play that. And there's a couple of other ones. I've mentioned a game called The Reap, which is sort of a Zaxxon-esque sort of game.
What's it called?
The Reap. It was by Housemarque, who did Resogun and stuff like that.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it was an early game by them. It's very much like Zaxxon, but when you blow things up, anybody who was an occupant of that vehicle sort of flies across the screen. So you can have, if you blow up a train, you might get 150 little men go all over the screen, and it just appeals to my sick sense of humor, I think, as much as anything. But yeah, PC gaming. I didn't have one when DOS was all the rage, so I never was into Doom that much. I remember I had Duke Nukem 3D, which I enjoyed for what it was, I suppose. But I don't have a huge amount of nostalgia for PC games at all. But other systems, I mean, I didn't own a Spectrum, but I had friends who owned them, and I used to go around and go on theirs quite a bit. So I've got some nostalgia for that. I owned a Mega Drive, and me and my brothers used to all play on it. So I've got some nostalgia for that. But nothing ever is as much. Nothing as much as a good old Commodore 64.
Nothing comes close to the 8-bit machines. But I think that was because it was the first. And it's like anything, the first of anything is always going to be your favourite.
Yeah, I mean, it helps if you got one of the good ones, though. If you got, I say good, or should I say one of the well-supported ones. I mean, if you said you wanted the Commodore 64 and your parents got you a +4 instead, you'd be gutted, wouldn't you? You know, or even I imagine anybody who got one of the Atari 8-bits probably was a bit disappointed because there wasn't much you could get for it, really.
Yeah.
So good though it is, there's not really much there.
I mean, I always say to anybody, you know, if you're in, especially I think probably if you're a C64 fanboy, then get yourself an Atari 8-bit because there is an absolutely massive back catalogue of what quintessentially could be a Commodore 64 game that never came out in the C64. There's an amazing collection of Atari 8-bit games.
Something I probably would like to investigate a bit more at some point. I've had a look through it for football games, obviously. Found some of them to write for my book. I see Robert Morrison's channel.
He's got a great channel.
He's very much an Atari fan, isn't he? So that sort of gives me some hints to what to look for in an emulator, at least. But it's definitely one I need to have a bit more of a look at.
He's been going probably maybe about 4 months, and he's up to like 600 subscribers. He's just loaded.
I suppose the Ataris are
massive in the States and Canada.
Yeah, obviously well regarded, so people are picking up. I presume that there's not many channels that actually cover it, or cover the Atari's systems that he covers, so people look at it and jump on.
I mean, I suppose if you're an Atari fanboy, then getting a YouTube channel like Robert's it focuses on the Atari, then you're going to want to watch it. What are I've always stood by, and I still stand by what I'm going to say, that I would say probably 80% of 8-bit games are not worth playing anymore. Would you agree on that?
I would say they're not worth playing if you didn't play them in the first place. I think if you played them back in the day, it's not just a nostalgia thing, though. It's knowing how they work and how to play them to get the best out of them. I think if you pick up an 8-bit game from back then, from scratch, and you don't know what you're doing with it, then it's probably not going to be a lot of fun a lot of the time. But I think if you played it back then, because you know what it was like, you'd buy a game and it didn't matter if it was rubbish, you'd spent your money on it, so you'd play it to death anyway. So if you did that back then and you played it and enjoyed it and knew how it worked, and you play it now, then you can still enjoy it. But I think if you're picking it up from scratch now and it's just sort of was fairly average then, there's a fair chance that people aren't going to want to have anything to do with it, are they?
Yeah, you know what's weird? I've actually found that games, not all games, obviously, because I mean there's standout games like Drop Zone. That's just a phenomenal game.
Yeah,
Exploding Fist. There's games that I loved back in the day, and I look at them now and I think, oh, that's a bit shit. I don't know what I'm expecting from it. And now I'll be honest, one of the streams that I did a couple of years ago was a Tony Crowther special, and I'll be hard pushed, other than local, to actually pick up a game and think that was actually any good. I mean, Suicide Express is all right, and that's mainly for the music. But most of Tony Crowther's games in the C64 are a bit shit. But I loved them back in the day. But I look at them now and I go, they haven't aged particularly well. They're really quite poor.
I'm not sure if I even really loved them back then, to be honest. I like Black Thunder. I think that was on the Off the Hook compilation that I had, which is also, it's another local Suicide Express game, that one.
That was almost, I think if you actually get the graphics and look at them side by side, it's the same game.
Yeah, but I think it's got different music, but that's about it. So I like that one. I think some of his later ones were better. He did. I quite enjoyed Bomboozle, and I quite enjoyed Zigzag, although it was confusing a little bit.
I can't remember Zigzag.
That was sort of, you flying a ship around a 3D maze. It was quite good.
He did. What was that other one? He did Trap, which had amazing. It was fantastic. I think it was Wii Music, Ben Dalglish and Tony Crowther. But the game itself wasn't that great. It was quite blocky.
Yeah, your ship was too big. You couldn't really.
Aye. And then you had things like, anyway. Was it William Wobbler or something?
Yeah, I didn't think much of that.
Griffin.
I think you played it on a stream. You did one called Fernandez Must Die. It was all right. It was more playable than most. It was sort of a
kind of commando, almost
commando / jackal kind of thing, wasn't it? I remember being in a jeep some of the time. So later ones were better in terms of. I did that Phobia as well. That was a shooting up. That was rock hard. That.
I
don't think I ever got past level 1 on that one. I was suffering from your syndrome with that game.
But then I look at Jeff Minter's games and I think Jeff's games still stand up. Maybe because I don't know, because I was a fan of, like, what was that one? What the hell is it called? The Tony Crowther game. You're flying a ship through a cave and you've got these fish jumping.
Oh, Kilowatt.
I loved that back in the day, and I've played it since. I'm like,
see, I don't know. I didn't play it then, but I played it more recently, and it's not bad. It's nice enough. It sort of reminded me a little bit of them. And it's a weird comparison. You'd have to remember the game to know what I'm talking about, but the way the caves were, and that reminds those things where you've got a sort of a metal pole with a hoop on the end, and you've got to go along the thing. You've got to sort of, without touching the sides. It reminded us of that. It was a bit weird. That was one of his better ones, I would say.
It was kind of he had a mixed bag. I mean, he was regarded as like one of the coding geniuses. But
in all honesty, though, I think he kind of perpetuated the myth a little bit. I think he sort of was self-proclaimed as one of the best, and people just picked it up and ran with it, didn't they? I think it was just because he put so many games out. Because I mean, he released loads of games.
Yeah,
so maybe that was why he got the reputation. I don't know.
He was putting out. I mean, he did put a lot of games, and he was putting out games in the really early days. Same as Jeff Minter. Yeah. I mean, I think Jeff's games have all pretty much stood the test of time. Mama Llama is still shit because nobody can actually understand the game.
Still not a clue what I'm doing on that game, but most of them just have a sort of simple playability, don't they? So you can just pick it up and have it. And I mean, that's what he's doing now. Really, a lot of his games are the same, aren't they? There's not a lot of difference.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they tart it up with all the modern technology and that, but effectively they're still the same sort of thing and they still play well. So, but yeah, I still love.
Jeff
I still love things like Iridium and stuff. I know you hate Iridium, and I know loads of people hate Iridium.
You know what? I was playing it. I was playing it in my that video that I made. I think I hate it because I'm just shit at it. But it's a memory game. There's no question of it. It goes so fast that you just crash into things all the time, and you've got to know that they're there. And I'm not a big.
You can get away with going slowly. You can do it. And sort of learn a bit better that way, but the time will come where you've got to be fast. So you have got to learn fairly quickly.
Was it Iridium Plus that made it easier? You didn't have to wait for the time or something. You could land at any point.
As soon as you got to the end, you could land. So that did make it a bit easier and a bit more fun, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, when I was playing it the other day, I mean, technically it's incredible. It's hard to believe that it's a Commodore 64 that's actually playing it.
It's great. There's some brilliant moments in it if you know what you're doing. Once you get further on, there's one bit where it has, like, you know how you have all the structures on the dreadnoughts that you have to avoid, and there's one where you've got to flip your ship on the side to get through the gap, and then the runway is just after it at the top end of the screen. So you've got to go through the little gap at the bottom, then up the runway there. And sometimes if the klaxon's going because your time's up and you've got to land, and you've got to swarm of ships chasing after you, and you fly through on your side and flip round and land. It's just a brilliant moment if you can actually pull it off. So, but you have to play it for umpteen hours to be getting the points like that, which I have.
I mean, how can you complete the game, or does it just kind of loop?
You can complete it. I haven't. I've got quite far, but I have never completed it. And you get a scrolling message at the end, but I think it might wrap around after that. I'm not sure. Something to aim for one day. I think I've got to level 12 or 13 before, and I think there's 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So if I ever finish it, I'll let you know.
What would you say is your top 3 Commodore 64 games?
What a question to ask. I always say Paradroid. I always will say Paradroid. Any of those, any version of it, really. It's just absolutely brilliant. Let's think. I'll probably end up saying Impossible Mission, which I know some people don't like. But
I just don't like the game. I mean, it's like a technical demo. I mean, it's phenomenal. The graphics, the sound is incredible. But it's just the actual running about, jumping, just the mechanics of the game. I just don't like it. And I know I'm in the minority.
I think it's really well done.
It's not for me.
It feels like you're in a sort of spy movie almost. It's really well done with all the searching of the furniture and putting the puzzle pieces together. It's really good. Anytime I pick it up and play it, I still enjoy doing it. I can still complete it.
I'll make it easier then. What game would you say has the best sort of use of sound? The top 3 games for sound, what would you say?
Now you're talking as well, because obviously straight off the bat I'm going to say Monty on the Run, because that's just that's goes without saying, doesn't it?
Best Sid. I know I listen to a lot of Sid music when I do the Sid shows, but Monty and the Run is, to me, will never be me. Just even I think
now, if you were there at the time and what you were used to from computer game music, like crap versions of classical tunes and stuff, and then that came on, it was just a completely different world, wasn't it?
What was I watching? What was I listening to? What the hell was it? I was playing no, in fact, I think it was the Sunday stream again. There was a review of a game, and they said, "Oh, the music's excellent." And after the stream, I went and played it, and the music, I'm thinking, really? And it was it Robobolt or something? I can't remember. I can't remember. I just thought, God, if you think the music is brilliant, wait till just wait 6 months for Monty and the Run to come out. You know,
I just wonder if, and I don't at all mean to be disparaging to Americans, but American games often didn't have the best music, and yet they also didn't get a lot of the European games to know what sort of music was happening over here. So that's a possibility.
That's an interesting point. I mean, the games that I played on my 64, I got a 64 in 1983, and most of the games that I was playing were they weren't US Gold, because US Gold wasn't even a thing at that point.
Yeah.
But like Synapse Software and all these Broderbuns and Areola Soft and all these, they were bringing out things like Fort Apocalypse and Seamus and that, and these were just phenomenal. They were all conversions of the Atari, and to be fair, most of the Atari versions were better. But yeah, the music, there was the one game that I just mentioned, that Seamus, that has got a great, I can't remember, it's like the Inspector Clouseau tune.
Right. That's a game I never played. But I think Synapse, they kind of went for more cinematic feel, didn't they, rather than the music. They kind of went for atmosphere a bit more.
Oh, Seamus is like, have you never played Seamus?
Never played Seamus.
Oh, you need to rectify that. Seamus is a great game. It's like an arcade, that sounds daft, because Berserk is an arcade game. But it's like Berserk, but it's quite simplistic graphics, but it's awesome, and it's got the most awesome intro. I could show you just now, but this for whatever reason, the sound on StreamYard. In fact, fuck it, let me just.
Well, go and chuck it on and we'll have a look.
Let me just just for the intro, it's worth it for the intro.
I mean, I remember reading a review of it in Zap, for instance, and I've seen pictures of it, but I've never got around to playing it for some reason or other.
Oh, it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot sometime. I don't think I can squeeze it into my football games book to justify giving it a play for that, can I? I'm trying to find reasons to justify playing games now. If I'm not writing about it, I need to have a reason for it.
Right, wait a minute. Share screen. Hopefully we'll get the sound in this. Yeah, Seamus is a bloody fantastic game. This is this. Oh no, this isn't the Denise one. Wait a minute. Let's load up the Denise emulator. There we go. Yeah, I'm loving this. I think it's.
I just feel like it's a bit options light for my well, at least it hasn't got a pause on that I've found. If it had a pause, that would help.
It's not got a pause, is it not?
I can't find one.
I don't know. Let's get a game going anyway. Right, cartridges. Yeah. Hopefully this guy has converted this. Seamus. There we go.
I can hear that. That's fine.
How cool is that?
For the day, it would be really good.
I mean, even the presentation of the game.
there's the music we're talking about.
Just hang on, let me change the. It's a fantastic game. Select map. Press F5 to select difficulty. How do you start it? Press F7 to start. Oh, piss off, Jesus. There's no way to avoid him. It's an absolutely brilliant game. It's kind of, you've got to like collect keys and that kind of stuff, and there's different maps.
Could be a good game for a challenge, this.
Aye, look at that. Even that, I think the graphic, I mean, for an early game, I think this is bloody brilliant. Pick up the key, and if you hang about too long, you do get that dude appearing, whatever it is. Anyway.
I don't know what I expected from it when I used to see pictures of it and reviews and things.
You've never seen it? Aye, no, definitely worth playing. I mean,
I don't think I expected it to be sort of a Berserk type game anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic game. In fact, I've got a story about an anecdote about this game. I used to play it all the time back in the day, And then one morning, my mum came down and she came down in the morning to wake me up for school. I'm going to. How can you pause this? You must be able to pause it.
You can't. There's no pause.
Oh, surely not.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm a bit not sold on it yet.
So it's just the pause one that's kind of.
If they put a pause mode in, I'll start using it more, or a pause button.
I mean, you can come out, you can power it off. But anyway, yeah, getting back to the story, my mum got me up for school and she said, "Why would you better be getting to your bed earlier, my lad?" She says, "I heard you playing that computer at like 4:00 in the morning." I went, "What?" I says, "I wasn't playing the computer at 4:00 in the morning." "Yes, you were. I heard the music." I says, "Mum, I wasn't." I said, "I was playing international soccer till about midnight and I switched it off and went to my bed." She goes, "Well, I heard that tune." I says, "What tune?" She goes, "Oh, that one you were playing yesterday." And then it was, I goes, "Was it this?" And she went, "Yep, that was the tune. I heard that at 4:00 in the morning." So it somehow switched itself on and loaded up Seamus in the middle of the night. But
did it though, weird. Or were you really having a sneaky little session there?
But no, that's like I can't remember. Yeah, and we're getting what we're talking about. Talking about the. I was leading up to this. So most of the American software that I had was all early stuff. I mean, when did the obviously the UK came along and, as far as I'm concerned, pretty much kicked the Yanks' arse at programming software.
Mm-hmm.
There didn't appear to be the American software seemed to dry up pretty quickly on the C64. Was that because of the PCs come along, or what? Do you know?
I don't really know what it would have been. I don't know if it was because the consoles thing took over there, or because you know the Americans talk about the video game crash, which never happened here.
Yeah.
And how Nintendo came riding in to save the day. I just wonder if Nintendo's console sort of overtook any sort of use of computers at all for games.
That's because I mean, if you think about it, yeah, you'd have kids that would probably, they would want the latest console. They would sell a Commodore 64, get the console, get a Master System, get an NES, whatever. But there must have been a lot of people, Americans, that had a Commodore 64, and then suddenly when it gets to, I don't know, 1984, the software dries up, and were they then going to have to, would they have to import the British software, I wonder?
I don't know if they were even interested in that much in the British software. From what I'm thinking, they were more into things like the Infocom sort of adventure type things, or strategy games. You have like Origin, they did strategy games, didn't they? So I think they were more into, because they use discs, and we didn't very much. So they were into the big, massive, multi-disc sort of, like I say, strategy adventure type things, and we were all into the single loads for a long time, and I don't think they really wanted that kind of game. I don't know what. I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know why. But I think they were all more console. I mean, my missus is American, and she had an Atari 5200 and played Centipede on it and stuff. And I was thinking, I don't think we even got that over here. So they had definitely a different gaming scene to what we had. But I think they missed out on a lot.
Yeah, I mean, because Commodore was an American company.
Mm-hmm.
It's bizarre. I mean, obviously Atari came out early doors. I think Atari was bigger. In fact, if there's any American viewers watching this and you had a Commodore 64, I'd love to know at what year did the Commodore 64 effectively dry up? When did it stop being a thing? I mean, in the UK, it was still selling, what, about 1994, 93, 94? Was that when
90, well, certainly into the 90s anyway.
Yeah.
Selling all right. I suppose that when you think about it, Electronic Arts started out in the 80s, didn't they? And they were sort of, even then, big multi-disc sports games and things.
Yeah, I suppose Epix. I mean, but then there again, well, Epix, they were still putting out mean,
They went into the early 90s, didn't they? Or at least the late 80s.
Summer games, that would be like 84. Summer Games 2 was probably 85, 86, something like that.
85, yeah.
I suppose actually, when you think about it, Beachhead and Beachhead 2 and
yeah, they did leaderboard and stuff, didn't they? But I just think they wanted different kinds of games, the Americans, from what I'm thinking.
You had Paul Norman, obviously, with Beyond Forbidden Forest. That came out. Let me have a quick wee look and just see when that came out. So there were some, and then there was things like Scarabaeus. So actually, there was still software coming out, not as much as the.
Yeah, but it was very different. Ours, I mean, they didn't do platform games with flapping toilets and stuff, did they? It was. I think their gaming was more serious than ours. It's just a perception, mind. I could be completely wrong, but that's just how it feels, and it was how it felt then.
Yeah, no. I'm just interested to see. Hang on. Review.
As I say, I mean, in terms of what you want out of a game, they were both as good as each other in a way. But if you compared Jet Set Willy to Impossible Mission, like our stuff had sort of a sense of humor that theirs didn't as well. So maybe they just thought they were too grown up for our games.
I mean, I'm looking here. The Scarabaeus that came out in 1985, which is pretty early. And then what about Cronus Rift and all that kind of stuff?
That would have been probably, if not 85, early 86, I think.
Aye. So again, it was pretty early. I mean, was there any games coming out? Did any American games come out like in 1987, 88? I can't. Things I'd moved away. I'd moved away at that point.
As I say, like with things like the adventures and the strategy games more than anything. I'm trying to think when the first John Madden came out as well, because that was a Commodore 64 game. Might have been a little bit later.
Really? John Madden, bloody hell. John Madden Football 1989. Oh, well, there you go. Let's have a look.
So again, they were moving away, and it was just a more serious scene, I think.
Yeah.
They did have a Tongue of the Fat Man, which is absolutely crap. I made you play that. Rubbish fighting game.
Yeah, I think I was forced to play that.
Yeah, I'll pick that one for you.
I know. So I mean, there were, Electronic Arts were still putting out games, and obviously, I mean, even things like Raid Over Moscow, not Raid Over Moscow, well, that was kind of what 85, 86, and then Beachhead 2
might even have been 84. That
was that really?
Could well have been, yeah.
Aye, because Beachhead that was 80. When was that?
Beachhead might even have been 83. Beachhead was one of the very earliest.
Raid Over Moscow was oh bloody hell, sorry. Raid Over Moscow was that was 84. Ghostbusters was 84.
Yeah.
All the kind of Activision stuff was 84.
But, I think they must have just separated computers and consoles in their minds completely, and thought the computer was for more serious brain games, and the consoles were for sort of the arcadey stuff.
Brain games and strip poker games, that was about it. That works.
I wouldn't know about that. I wouldn't know about that, actually, because one of my mates bought one of them from... we used to have this little... There was... In our local bus station, there was a second-hand bookshop, and he used to sell second-hand computer games as well, and we always used to go up there every week and see what new stuff was in. And I remember one of my mates buying a Hollywood Poker from there. I don't think it had Amiga screenshots on. I think it actually had Commodore 64 screenshots on the box, if I remember right. But there it was for £4, so he went and bought it. I probably bought Intergalactic Cage Match or something instead. But it was great for stuff like that. I mean, that's the sort of thing you don't really get now either. I just wonder if physical game shops are going to be a thing of the past in the next few years, if not sooner.
Are they still a thing even now?
They still are. You still see them, but there's not going to be much of a market. I mean, you see that most game sales are digital now, so it'll probably end up, everything will be like limited run games or something, where you just sort of special orders of stuff, limited run productions of physical games instead of actual mass market ones.
Yeah,
Which would be a weird time, that.
Yeah. I mean, even now you can buy a Switch game in Argos, and you get the box and you just get a code.
That really annoys me. That you haven't really bought anything, have you? If you buy a physical game, you should get at least the physical media that it comes on. It's instead of a bloody piece of paper with a code on it.
You don't even get. Actually, see, when you think about it, if you buy like a Switch game, do you even get instructions with it? I don't think you do.
No, you don't. I don't think anything. I don't think get instructions for anything anymore. I mean, it's something you can go on about for ages, isn't it? But when you think about the manuals you used to get in games, especially the big box ones, you used to get manuals like that.
No, I've showed off my Elite box multiple times. I mean, you get about 20 things in the bloody box.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my mate buying Airborne Ranger, and that had all sorts in the box. The manual is huge, but there's all kinds of things in there. You don't get. I mean, things like that where you really felt like you got your money's worth, didn't you?
I know, when you think about it. I mean, like, I remember, like, I was never into it, but like things like Gunship, you got a big thick manual and all that. I mean, these things must have cost a few quid to print off. They probably cost more to print than duplicating the actual game or the disc.
Very likely. I've got a few of them upstairs. Things like I've got Project Stealth Fighter upstairs. That's another one that had that sort of thing. I suppose Microprose, all of their games, didn't they? They all had loads of stuff in the box. But yeah, even just a normal standard like double-sized dual thing, that you'd have a decent instruction manual in a lot of the time.
Or obviously cassettes, you just got the inlay and it would tell you how to load the game and a few instructions.
But even then, sometimes you would get sort of, if you didn't get an instruction manual, at least it'd be a sort of fold out inlay with a couple of pages of instructions at least on it. If it was even for a simple game, you get nothing now.
I mean, you think about an Xbox 360 game, you get an instruction manual in it.
Yeah, I've got loads of them.
Just been since kind of digital download. You just don't get instructions in games like this.
No, it's probably one of the saddest things about buying new games, I suppose, is that it just seems like a lack of effort in a way. But I mean, I know you get hundreds of people working on the game, so if they can cut some overheads somewhere, fair enough.
I mean, I suppose kind of modern games now, when you think about it, you don't need instructions for the controls, because you just press pause and then you go to options and you go to control and you can go, right, that's that, and then you'll get some big intro telling you that your daughter's been kidnapped. And you've got to
that's true. They can put everything on the screen.
Whereas you're playing something like Auf Wiedersehen, Pet. What the
no,
fuck
you're
is
not.
that? Oh,
you're really not.
That's Oz moving. That's him building a bar. Right, okay. You had to get instructions because they had to tell you what you were meant to be actually doing, what you were looking at.
Yeah, but I suppose people don't buy games from shops again. Like I say, we used to go to the shop, buy the game, get on the bus to go home, and you'd be reading through all the instructions on the way home and looking at the cover art and everything. And even the cover art's not as good most of the time these days. It's this is a proper grumpy old men rant at the minute, isn't it? Back in my day, you used to get a million items in your game box and the best piece of artwork you'd ever seen, and now it's just a blank piece of paper.
Obviously, later games in 8-bit, when you started getting arcade conversions, it was always the Electron version of Green Beret, and then it would have a fucking arcade shot in the back. Other versions may vary. Fucking no shit.
That was. You'd always have a look and see if it could work out, because sometimes the screenshots weren't even very clear, and you'd see if it could work out what version it might be, or whether it was the arcade one. No, for a fact, if there was any Rolling Thunder screenshots on the box, you knew they weren't the Commodore 64 one.
But as we all know, if you get a screenshot of and you put it in a postage stamp size picture, it's going to look pretty detailed.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I was
get it on a telly. It's like, oh, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I mean, I was reading an article. I've read it a few times. They're talking about Outrun on the Spectrum, and all the adverts and the previews had these screenshots of that were actually like 3 or 4 screens. It was just like photoshopped,
Mm-hmm.
and even apparently in the back of the Spectrum, I wonder. Let me see if I can find it. Even in the back of the Spectrum inlay had this photoshopped screenshot, whereas the actual game looked. It didn't even resemble. It didn't resemble the game in any shape or
Was it
form.
photoshopped back then, or was it just sort of hand drawn art?
Apparently, it's
Because
cobbled.
I don't think Photoshop even existed, did it?
It was apparently it's cobbled together. Let's see if I can find it. Cassette. Has it got cassette inlay? Cover. Hang on. Cover. There we go. Right, I'm going to let you. Oh, hang on. I'm going to share this. Get over there. There we go. Right. Can you see that?
Brilliant.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is not the Spectrum. That is made up.
Is it?
The Spectrum game looks right. Let's shall we load the game? So there you go. There's a.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, at least the Commodore 64 looks like that,
It does, yeah.
and the Amstrad looks like that. What's that Amstrad? I take it that's Amstrad. Oh, that's Atari ST. That one. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Have a look at that. There's the. I mean that you would look at that and go, holy fuck, that looks incredible.
I'm having that. Where's my £10?
Right, let's see what the reality was. Right. Oh, hang on. Hopefully that's not too loud.
Oh, I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised.
Right,
With the music,
3.
to be honest. Sounds alright.
Oh fuck! It's going to actually expect me to actually be quite good at this. Right, hang on. 2. How do we? Right, 2.
You don't have to get to the bit that was on the screenshot.
Right, wait a minute. Outrun. You see, that looks all right at the moment.
Yeah, it does so far.
That looks kind of. See, I don't think that's that bad.
No, it's quite decent. However,
Exactly. Bloody.
I'm disappointed that that nice music was only on the title screen, and now in the game it's just sort of the farty little noises.
Right, let's try it. Where's my hooder? Oh, there we go. Right, I'm now doing 200 and.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I think that's actually all right. That's not as. I don't think I've ever actually played this, but
Not bad, like that.
we want to try and catch up with Laurie if we can. Come on, you bastard!
Those trees look like they need a few more years to grow as well.
You'll notice that there's no palm trees in this one either.
They're a bit on the small side anyway.
Yeah.
So was that car that you just went past, actually.
Oh, for Christ's sake. I tell you what, let's there we go. Let's run it at double speed. That's much better.
Yeah.
Oops.
Still not convinced you'll catch a truck up, like.
No, there's not much chance of me doing that. Oh. In fact, are there any trucks in this version? That's what we want to know.
I'm starting to worry. It's all Volkswagen Beetles, isn't it?
So I don't think this is that bad. Oh, hang on, is it loading again?
Loading the next bit you just got there.
1, 2, come on. I'll tell you what, right, it looks like it's crashed. Let's just bring up that. Let's bring up that advert again. Cassette cover. Right. I'll move that to there. And then let's how do we do that? Can we make that smaller? Like so. There we go.
Smaller or bigger? Let's have a look.
There we go. Let's have a look and see.
Yeah, those trees are definitely. There's definitely something.
Yeah, the trees have been skimped on. I think the road signs have been skimped on. But the actual car, I think the car's the same, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more detailed on that screenshot than it is in the game.
But I didn't see any of these. But yeah, apparently that was completely photoshopped. But
yeah, those trees are a lie. There's definitely no trees that size.
no. Was that not the same with Nemesis? Do you not remember that?
Yeah, that was a big controversy, wasn't it?
Aye, the graphics looked phenomenal, and then I think the actual finished product was actually all right, but it
Yeah.
just wasn't.
It wasn't as good as, I think just one magazine got an exclusive preview.
Yeah.
So they lied a bit to make it seem better. And as you say, it was still all right, but it couldn't live up to what was billed, which is unfortunate. But
And that was kind of part of the charm of 8-bit machines. You never really knew what you were going to get. You know, the game was invariably either brilliant or absolutely crap.
I mean, if it was a conversion and it played somewhat like the arcade version, then you were happy enough. I mean, Nemesis on the Commodore 64 was pretty good, apart from the weird use of the shift key to choose your weapons, but that was quite nice.
Was it like shift or something? It was something bizarre, eh?
Yeah, and I actually interviewed Simon Pick, the programmer. I'd have to have a look and see what he said, but he did say there was a reason behind it. And it was something to do with him. He was so new to programming that he didn't actually know how to allocate anything else for that button, something like that.
Fair play, yeah.
But that was a pretty good version, actually. Considering how much I liked it in the arcade, I was quite happy with the money I spent on that one.
Was that not released by Konami? No, but directly, I think. Eh?
Yeah, it was some dodgy company. There was a lot of, because they did Jailbreak as well, which is so bad. So bad. I mean, the arcade game's rubbish in the first place, but it's just one of the worst Commodore 64 games. I know what you should do for. I was going to say I know what you should do for stream at some point. You should do your rubbish game covers thing as a stream, because you used to do it on your Facebook and you don't really obviously use the Facebook much anymore.
Well, I can't because
they locked you out, didn't they?
Yeah, because my account was hacked and then subsequently deactivated by Facebook with no recourse for appeal.
The bastards.
I think I can still, when I do my I can't access my main Meister page and I can't access the game covers page because it's linked to my original Facebook. But I think they're still there, which is annoying because they'll never be updated because I can't physically access it. I wish the damn thing would just disappear.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
it would make a good stream, but I think it would make a good video if you did a video where you cobbled something together and talked about them, just so that they're there somewhere else. Because there's some
game covers. Yeah, there's definitely mileage. Yeah. So anyway, Paul, obviously you write for Zap, and you're getting all these new games. Do you think we're going to continue to get new games as long as there's an interest in the systems?
At the minute, we've got a list of 26 games to be reviewed for Zap 64, and we're only getting about 8 into a magazine at a time. So we've already got more than 3 issues worth still just sitting there waiting to do. So people don't seem as though they're ever going to stop making them. And when you see the quality of some of them, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're actually tremendous games. So I think it's going to be going for a long time yet.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing Soul Force as part of that video that I'm doing, and that's an incredible shoot 'em up. It's an incredible accomplishment for an 8-bit computer.
Have a look at after this. Have a look at a video for a game called A Pig Quest, which isn't out yet, but we're going to be reviewing it, and it's just
a pig
quest.
Pig, yeah.
Have a look for that and have a look and see what you think just of the video. I think it's getting released next month. Actually, it's on Valentine's Day when it's getting released. So we're having a look at it now to review it. And I mean, it's just unreal what people are doing. it's brilliant.
So is there footage out there on YouTube of it?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
I will go and do that. Listen,
in terms of actual gameplay, it doesn't really do anything you haven't seen before. But just when you actually see the whole thing moving and that, if it had come out back in the day, people would have been absolutely astonished. It just looks brilliant.
I'll go and check that out. There was a game. I think it's one you've got to buy, and it's kind of like it tips its hat to like Raid over Moscow.
Oh yeah, Terrestrial, that one.
Aye, have you played that?
I have played that. I'm playing it to review for the next issue as well.
All right, you don't want to give any spoilers away, obviously.
I'm not giving you spoilers. Trev Stories was one of the ones on that. Yeah, it's got a mixture of all.
Graphics. Yeah,
it's got a mixture of a few different game styles in it. So all I'll say is it's interesting from that perspective. If you like several old Commodore 64 classics, then you'll probably like this particular game. That's all I'll say for now.
What do you think? What's the attraction of new games in old systems? Because let's be honest, you could bring out a game in the PC and it will blow the 64 away into Kingdom Come. Why do we still want to see? Why do we still get a thrill out of seeing Arlosoft knocking out a new another version of an arcade game? I mean, just have you seen Arlosoft's version of Robotron 2084?
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not finished it, but I really hope that he does finish it.
It'd be good if he did, because it would be good to have a sort of definitive version of that.
Yeah,
I mean, the programmers of them, it's just sort of a passion project, isn't it? Just to see what they can do with the machine. For us, I don't know why we keep playing. I mean, we just like good games, and we'll have the nostalgia for the system. So I think it's just sort of exciting to see things still coming out for it that are as good or even better than we used to play back in the day. But I guess there isn't any logical reason why we still want to see them and we still love seeing new games come out. When obviously, as you say, you can get much bigger and more elaborate games on any other system you like to name. I don't know. There's just something about it, isn't there? There's just something about the Commodore 64.
I think because we grew up with the hardware, we knew the limitations. I mean, some of the early games for the systems were diabolical, and to see a phenomenal game running, you're like, that's just incredible. It's a hard thing. I don't think like a 20-year-old would get the same thrill out of, I don't know, playing Berserk that Arlosoft's put out.
I mean,
they're just going to go, oh yeah. You've got to have been alive at the point when the Commodore 64 and the Spectrum first came out, and you realised how shit the original games were, and you think it's phenomenal.
It's just the fact that it's a system that should be dead. It should have no relevance whatsoever to anybody. And the fact that it's almost 30 years since the thing was discontinued and the company went bust, and we're getting new games on it. I mean, it's over 100 a year coming out. That's mental.
You know what? I'm going to sound a bit hypocritical because I've just said that 80% of the games on the Commodore 64 I wouldn't buy, and I probably still stand, but not buy. I wouldn't want to play again for any more than 10 seconds. But I could probably, if the Commodore 64 was the current hardware that we've got now in 2023, and the Amiga had never been invented, and PlayStations and Xboxes, and our hit for video games was a Commodore 64, I think people like you and I would still be happy with that.
I'll be fine with it. I mean,
you know what I mean?
They're all still. I guess they don't compare well in some ways to a lot of the games, but as long as they're still good to play, and some games are good to play. I mean, we do these reviews and we don't give games high scores just for the sake of it. We actually enjoy them that much,
Mm-hmm.
And if a game's not very good, we'll say so as well. But it's at the point where not many of them aren't good. I mean, they're at least all right most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are poor, but there's not that many. A lot of them, and there's a lot of effort goes into them, There's another one I was going to mention. You'll have to have a look at, and it's hard to imagine that people are doing stuff like on the Commodore 64. There's a game called Stoker. That's somebody's
What's it called?
Stoker, Stoker. If you just have a look at the video of it running. I mean,
what was the other one again? What was the other one I was to look at?
A Pig Quest.
A pig quest, right? Okay.
And they're not games that are available yet.
Yeah.
But if you look at the videos of them, you'll be thinking, Jesus, you can't quite believe that a machine that old can do stuff that's still surprising now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just there's a one
I
called
think,
I don't know if I think I got you to play it, that Minnow Trace where you're racing through a maze really fast. I don't know if you remember it or not, but I did make you play it on a stream, and it was the only object was to get through the maze to the black wall at the end before the time ran out.
oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it was kind of like Castle Wolfenstein sort of thing.
But it was just unbelievably fast.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just amazing how the things people are still doing that they couldn't do in the past. So from that point of view, it's just kind of nice to see the old girl learning new tricks, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. I think our generation, we grew up with, the graphics were diabolical, but it didn't matter because your imagination filled in the gaps. And the best game for me, that case in point, is Beam Rider by Activision. Beam Rider looks bloody atrocious. I mean, it's really, but it's one of the best bloody computer games you'll ever play.
There's loads like that where the people would laugh at them, I guess. I mean, for me, one like that's Cliffhanger, I suppose. It's just, I think it's hilarious, and it's much better than the actual Roadrunner arcade game was. It's like a Roadrunner cartoon, and even if you are a little stick man and your brother's called Coat Hanger, it's ridiculous. But the actual just doing the silly stunts is really funny. It doesn't matter that it just looked terrible. I mean, it was still effective. It still looked like you were in a cartoon Wild West, I suppose. It doesn't matter, does it? It's just a lot of fun you can have.
Now we just, I mean, you never ever play a game on the, I don't know what kind of latest kind of console you've got. I mean, I've got the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox. You play a game in that, and you'll never say to your mate, "Oh, I was playing that game yesterday. The graphics are brilliant." Or you'll never go, the music. You heard the music for that. It's just we take it for granted now, and I think that's the problem.
I suppose so. I mean, when it comes to things like music, I mean, I know there's a lot of people who are into game series and the music in the game series and the list of composers and things, but to me, it's just all sounds much the same. There's nothing to really stand out because it's just all big orchestral swells. Yeah. Or if it's an indie game, they kind of quite often have a similar feel as well. I suppose the chiptune thing's quite in vogue, but I don't know. Again, I mean, even the Spectrum had its own sort of charm with its sound, even if it's not the best necessarily.
You know what? I think because there was limits to the hardware, there was very strict limits, and so when somebody pushed these limits even further, pushed the boundaries, you're like, holy shit, bloody hell, because whereas
and
now
still are as well. That's the thing. There was often you'd play something that you couldn't quite believe it back in the day. Like you'd put Crazy Comets on for the first time, like, Jesus Christ, listen to that. Couldn't believe the music on it. Or you put World Games on and you couldn't believe the graphics on it. And you quite often have moments like that, and I can't remember the last time a new game did that.
I mean, to put it into context, my phone, if I take a photograph and upload it onto my PC, the file size is almost the size of like the game Doom.
Exactly.
Photograph. Or as they say, like, I mean, I think to put it into context, the Twitter icon is something like 8K, and then people were knocking out games in the VIC-20, and it's ridiculous.
I mean, I do think about that. You can't quite believe when you see a game running on an old system like that. And when you see it's quite big, you have quite a lot of screens and you have good graphics and things. You think, how the hell did they fit all that into that memory? How did they do it? It doesn't even make sense to someone who doesn't program. When you're like me, I can't even begin to imagine.
I think it's fair to say that you and I are probably both the two of the least uneducated people when it comes to how they manage to do stuff.
That's why it's probably true. That's why I like reading things like the diary of a game that I used to get, where people would sort of describe how they did the graphics and the had all these blocks of and how they used to put them somewhere to pull them from memory and stuff, and it's like
Well,
I did computer studies at school, and it just made no sense to me whatsoever. So
yeah, it was Panther that was telling me that apparently the way they got more colours for like things like Mayhem and Monsterland and that is they just had two colours and they'd flick between them really fast.
Yeah,
to create a third
apparently.
colour.
I mean, that boggles me eyes as well as me brain. I can't fathom it out. Speaking of games like that, did you see there's an updated version of Armorlight in the works for the Commodore 64?
No, really?
Yeah, it's going to be a Thalamus thing, like the Hunter's Moon. You remember the Hunter's Moon?
Yeah.
That was out. So it's got the original programmers working on it, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be called Armorlight Ultra. So I don't know what's going to be in it, but that could be interesting. Probably won't be out for another year or so, like. But
listen, just before we finish up, Paul, have you ever seen Jim Bagley's Manic Miner running on Pac-Man hardware?
I don't know. I'm not sure because he's done quite a few things like that, hasn't he? I don't think I have seen that one.
I'll let you see it. I was playing it earlier on. PC games.
I'll tell you what, when you're loading this up, I think this particular edition's been the very definition of waffle, hasn't it?
Yeah, we'll keep it to an hour, he says, an hour and 45 minutes later. Jesus.
There's been no focus or anything, it's just been pure old blather. What comes to mind now? What's sprung into your head? Just say that, just blurt it out.
Well, man, where the hell's it going? I was playing earlier on, how can it disappear? Where the bloody hell's it going? I was playing it. How can it vanish?
Oh, it wouldn't be a proper MainMeister thing without some sort of technical difficulties.
Oh, I can't believe this. I was playing it earlier on.
Have you accidentally deleted it?
Oh, that's weird. Where the hell did it go? Well, it looks like I can't show you. How can I could get that's unbelievable. I was playing it.
Oh, I'm disappointed now. I'm crushed. I was so looking forward to it, and you've just shattered me dreams.
Looking forward to see it. What have I done with it? Oh Christ! Anyway, well, it's good, but I wish I could see it.
What a deflating way to end the stream or the show.
Let's show you this fantastic. Oh, I can't show you because I've not got it anymore.
Oh, this is brilliant. This. Oh, but never mind.
I was playing it earlier on as well today. Right. So anyway, no, that's not it. No, it's not that. What the hell is it? Right, no, I don't know what. I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't believe you. I think you're playing China Miner and it's just
yeah, I think I was. I think I must have been, mate. Right, anyway, can't find it. Well, listen, anyway, on that bombshell, I think it's time to draw this Friday Waffle to a close. So, thanks for joining me, Paul.
No worries, it was fun.
You're always you're welcome anytime. And lastly, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have an excellent weekend. And I will be along as always 7 o'clock on Sunday. And I hope to see you then. As always, have a great weekend, guys. See you.
See you later.
Hey. Christ, you're the technical advisor. Jesus Christ.
That says a lot, doesn't it?
But is this potentially not the best version of Manic Miner you're ever going to play then? Because it's running on hardware.
Could be. It certainly looks very nippy, doesn't it?
Oops.